go ahead and start the recording again. Thank you guys. And then we'll just dive right back in. So as you guys, saw.
I got you ice cream.
Ooh, somebody got ice cream, huh? So on Facebook, you guys
$3.36.
Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and mute some people. Okay, you guys will search golf tournament or golf classic, and then as you go through, you'll just hit all these different ones that you're interested in. So go through all of them. As you guys can see, I've already hit that I was interested in quite a few, but don't feel like you can only do events that are in your area, because then it won't show you, more tournaments as you go. So I think because I've just been clicking all kinds of stuff, it's showing me more and more. I was just on this a few days ago, so I can't even believe how many new ones are on here. But what you want to make sure that you do is scroll down once you have this event page up. And so right underneath events, what I'm so excited that computers are allowed to do now, because you used to only be able to do this on your phone, is going to the date section. You'll click on this and you'll be able to click like next week, this weekend. The other day, it let me actually choose the date. So it's a little weird, it's not coming up now. What I love about what I've always found on your phone, and I swear it was showing me this last week, is that you can choose different dates. But one thing I've learned is, again, with the different algorithms in Facebook or with Facebook, it only wants to show you events per 30 days. So I would start with January, whatever date is this weekend, somewhere around like the 14th. And then I would do it until like February 14th. And then start again from there, and then once you've hit all the different ones that you're interested in, then do February to the middle of March, middle of March to April. And I usually try to go about 6 months out because with the tournaments that are farther away, you can build in the super tickets, or you can try to get a hold of them to let you sell them this year. So, oops, I'm letting everybody in that was stuck. So you'll want to just go through, but you'll end up going back once you've hit that you're interested in all these different tournaments. You're going to go back to your main events page. So from here, you'll go home, click on events on the side. As this loads, I don't think my computer likes me still. Sorry, guys. And then you'll click, your event, see all, and you want to go through and basically contact them in a couple different ways. And so I'm really adamant about making sure that you write them on their event page. If they don't have a way for you to comment on the event page, then actually posting on the flyer itself, and then also going on and you'll scroll down here and writing them directly. So sometimes people only see it in their messages. Other times I never get a response, from a message, but they'll respond to me on their page. So I think kind of just covering all the different bases to just send out a friendly, hello, and that you want to get a hold of their, the person in charge of sponsorships is really important. So I'm going to pull this one up, see if I happen to write this tournament. If not, then we will. And I pretty much I copy and paste the same thing all the time. So what I'll do is I'll go to discussion, see if I can write on their page or on the event post. And so right here, hi there, I'd love to sponsor a hole or a contest if you have anything available. A couple friendly emojis are always nice. I put my phone number and then I just ask them the best person for me to reach out to. And then I copy this and paste it on whoever is hosting the event. So you'll go back to the about. Come on. Event by Boys and Girls Club of Palm Beach County. Go to their page. And then you'll direct message them. So outside of basically going through and doing as many as you can this way on Facebook, then I also go back and I'll see if there's an email anywhere. The reason so see, I wrote them January 1st. They just have like a basic message that came back. But if they have an email address either on their flyer or on the event host's own page, then it's really helpful. So you can, grab their information right here, and then I'll show you guys my template for what I send them. And again, I really like emailing them because I've been including one of our videos. And for now, I've just been using one of our long drive videos, but eventually Elite will have their own Elite video to send them. So this has been working. So I will show you guys. My email is pretty basic as well. So I just write them, hey, I came across your golf tournament page online. I'd love to sponsor a hole or a contest for upcoming event. I tell them who the heck we are. So I am with, Elite Fundraising Solutions and also Crank Golf. And with both companies, we offer free hole-in-ones with our Hero program. We sponsor long drive contests with our Crank drivers, hole sponsorships with our long drive entertainers. We help speed up play, give away awesome prizes and help fundraise for your cause. So I wanted to make sure I highlighted that because I don't want them to think, oh, well, they are a charity with the Hero program, or they're just trying to come in and, fundraise and make money at our tournament. No, we're there for you guys. We want to give away some awesome things. So I just added on here as well. Watch this video to give you an idea of what you can expect, at your next event with our long drive entertainers. So for me, I started thinking, a lot of times our long drive entertainers fundraise so much money and they have, great rapport at the tournament. Everybody's coming in and wanting to buy them drinks afterward. They do such a great job that I think that it's a great way to highlight at least that one program. But at the same time, I always make sure that I include our deck on here as well. So then that way they can go through, they can see everything that we have to offer. But this video is, just exciting. You're seeing them hit balls out of people's mouths or in between their legs, and, you're hearing everybody's comments. So make sure that you include both of those until we get our own Elite video that shows everything that we can do at tournaments. And don't worry, I'll make sure I send this out to everybody. So from there, you want to call the event. But before I get too far into calling the event, Leslie, did you want to show them the couple of websites that you found to be really helpful for finding tournaments too? And then we'll come back to calling and contacting them and how to book.
Yes, that is perfect.
Okay.
If I can just share the screen really quick, then I will kind of show everybody some of the things that, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, let's see.
And we have used a lot of different platforms in the past, obviously, and Facebook has been the #1 platform that we use. But what I've found is that when I sometimes type in, and I think it's just because, Audra's done this for so long and her algorithm is right on point. But when I type in golf tournament, not everything in my area shows up. So, or golf classic. So I started utilizing some third-party, companies, those kind of things. And so that was really kind of cool to just be able to see everything, in a different light. So once I get that screen share to work, it still says the same thing, Audra. I'm not sure what's going on.
I'm pulling up the settings right now to see what to click on. Sorry, guys.
Oh, you're fine. And so just, a quick overview. I have used a company called golftourney.com. And once you can see my screen, I'll just show you briefly what all of these look like as well. The only thing with golftourney.com is that with golftourney.com, you don't want to go directly to golftourney.com. You want to go to Google first, and then you want to type in golf tournaments in Colorado, right? Or wherever you're at, your location. Then once the Google page pops up, you'll be able to find golftourney.com and click on that page through Google. And the only reason I say to do it like this is because then you'll be avoiding having to make an account and go through their registration process. And you can kind of bypass all of that just by doing that. So that's just like a nice way to, not have just one extra step. And so another one too, which I will pull up once we figure this out too, but I know Chris is on the call, and Chris and Renee out here in Denver, they actually discovered something called Scramble Hunter. There they are. Hi guys.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and so they discovered something called Scramble Hunter, which I was just kind of looking at these past couple days, and I know Chris has told me about this in the past, but this is kind of a game changer. Chris, do you want to kind of talk about what Scramble Hunter is and just give us like a brief overview of, do you need to make some kind of an account with them? I assume it's free because I just logged into your account.
Yeah. No, it has a subscription. I don't remember what it is. It's like a one-time subscription. I think in like $10, maybe $20. It was really cheap. But
Okay.
I just kind of stumbled across it just searching for golf tournaments. I joined it, and what it is you can log into it, and then you can go and break it down by how many miles around your location, your area. So it'll tell you all the 4-person scrambles, 2-person scrambles, everything that's coming up in your area. So you can really narrow down that search. Another one I found also with the Scramble Hunter is the USGA app. If you guys anybody plays golf, you have the USGA app on there. When you go in and you log into your USGA app, let me just do it real quick with you guys real quick so I don't mislead you here.
That's perfect.
Is it letting you
On
guys
the bottom
share?
there,
Yeah.
on the bottom of your USGA app, they'll have your home, your scores, this and that. And you can hit more. And if you click on that more section, you can go in and it'll have your state there. Like I'm in Colorado, so obviously it says Colorado Golf Association. You can click on there and it drops a drop-down menu. It'll bring up your events, your latest golf news, things like that. You can click on the events tab and it'll show golf tournaments in your area as well. Now, some of these are USGA sanctioned events, so you'll see some pro am golf tournaments in there. So, you kind of want to, definitely make sure you're not calling those pro ams because, for one, it's going to be kind of hard for you to get out there during a tournament quite like that. But they do have some local tournaments on there as well. So that's another one that I have found where there are a few tournaments in there. But back to the Scramble Hunter, you can see here how Leslie has it up. You can put in your mileage. So you go, I think, from 25 miles all the way up to, I think, 100 miles, if I'm not mistaken. But it'll bring up every tournament within that radius. I shouldn't say everyone, but it'll bring up a ton of them. But then you can just click on whatever tournament, and just like what Audra was showing us with Facebook, it'll then give you all of the information about that tournament. Sometimes you have to, go to the website, or you got to contact the tournament director. But there's the event website, you can go to it.
Yeah, this is great.
And then it pulls up everything about that. So it'll tell about what the tournament, what the charities is for, where it's at, the day, the time, the contact numbers, phone numbers. It's been just a really good way to, kind of narrow down some of the chase and some of the rat race, it seems like sometimes,
Hey, great stuff,
Yeah.
Chris. You know what? This gives you the opportunity to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because
Yeah.
while you're trying to contact a tournament, you also may have a new course where you're not in there with Hero yet. So
Right.
then you've got the contact for the course as well as for the tournament. Good stuff.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
and the other thing that's kind of nice about is I know that there's, here in Colorado, we're kind of open. We got a couple of us here that we got to, we work with each other within the territory. But when you guys get down into like the Arizona, you got so many people and you don't want to step on toes. It's a good way for them maybe kind of narrow down their search to where they kind of are in their little area and, help them a little bit, so.
And do these show the events? Oh yeah, it looks like it shows it in order from like the most like upcoming, and then they just go in order from there. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they'll
Yeah.
be adding tournaments in. So like last week I was in looking at the Colorado and there was only like 8 or 9. This week there's like 14, so
Okay.
they'll if they add a tournament, they'll just place it in the date, so you can just kind of scroll there. I mean, like I say, for what it costs, I know it wasn't much because I'm cheap. Haha. As my wife laughs.
Renee.
But you know, it wasn't much for the benefit and for being able to just kind of narrow things down,
Okay.
you know,
I
and
wonder what the
all the
cost is.
information about that event on one page.
Yeah, this is really cool. And I really appreciate, they have a lot of information here. I mean, they have, on some of these, they have the prices, they have, all of the time frames. So when you are adding this into the CRM, you can kind of gather all the information first and then put it in, which is great. I think this is awesome.
Oh, and I
And the
like
other
how-
thing that
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The other thing that I really like about it too is if you scroll down a little bit, Leslie, a little bit more down to that, it'll tell what the charity is for and what it's about. You know, it gives you some good information on it to where you can use that when you make those calls or you contact those people, or even if you've booked a tournament and it's in 3 months, it's good to go back in there and refresh so that when you show up out there, you know what you're out there representing in the cause.
Yes. No, this is amazing. I think this is kind of a game changer. And I think, if there is some kind of subscription or something like that, I think it's absolutely worth it for everybody in the company to have this, as just a tool. And I think this is awesome. And just like the other app you were talking about as well, I'd love for, everybody to kind of bookmark that just so that's a really great tool to use. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Renee, for
Thank
Yeah.
talking about that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
Any way we can help.
Thank you so much. And yeah, there are a couple things too. I do want to make sure that I say, just from my end, and I know Audra's going to kind of dive a little bit deeper into this. But just so you guys see, preparing to outreach is kind of its own situation. We do have a profiling sheet on the CRM that you can download. And that's really great for our beginners, our new people coming on board when they are starting to contact some of these tournaments. But they have some great questions on there, to help gather as much information that they couldn't find online. So you can kind of keep it all in one spot. I don't really use these sheets anymore, but I just think they are a great tool to use.
Especially in
That
the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning, I think it's really important that you feel comfortable in what you're doing. And the sheet can be found on the CRM under the download section. But like I said, make sure to learn as much about the tournament you're contacting online first before you reach out, just so you kind of know and have some background information about that. And then make sure you have your CRM tournament leads tab open on your computer so you can enter all of your information as you go when you're talking to that point of contact. So documenting your leads, we all know, is super, super important. So others in your area maybe don't reach out to the same tournament, or, those kind of things as well. If you're new, you obviously, if you're going through training or you've already completed training, or you're not quite there yet with the CRM, you'll do so by clicking on the tournaments tab, the leads, add new, then enter the information, and then you'll select if it's a booked tournament, yes or no. Then it'll be added to the event calendar when it's booked. And for my team specifically, I want to make sure, remember that leads without notes are going to be presumed as abandoned, and they will be handed over to other ATMs and TMs in the area. So please make sure you're leaving notes like, hey, I've talked to this person and this date. That way I know, if I'm going through the CRM and I just see a tournament that maybe has not been contacted, and we don't want that to just kind of sit there. So we just need to make sure we're leaving notes. So I just wanted to be clear about that as well. And this is the other slide that I have really quick. So if you want, just take a quick picture with your phone of this page. And please remember what Chris kind of said too with the USGA app. And this is great because this is the golftourney.com, the Scramble Hunter, and the Eventbrite, right? And so Scramble Hunter, we've kind of had a preview of, which was awesome. Chris went kind of really deep into that with us. I absolutely love that. But really quickly, I just want to show you guys golftourney.com. So if we go here, we have upcoming events, and like Chris said, they're adding in everything right now. But we also have all of the past events too here. And this is awesome because if we go to, page 6 or something like that, you can actually go in here and see first annual Even Keel charity golf tournament took place at this place. You can go into Facebook and then look up this past tournament and contact them, especially these annual ones that take place every single year. They're going to be doing this every year. That's an automatic in for you. And the sooner you can get in contact with these people, the more of a chance you're going to be able to go all in with our super ticket and all of our programs and everything and have yourself a really, really great day out there. So I just like to point that out too, that, you know, even if some of these are past tournaments, make sure you look them up and get them in the CRM too, and follow up with them because they will be important. Now, the one other one I wanted to show you was Eventbrite. And Eventbrite is also great. It's just an events. It's only events. So you're not, looking up golf courses per se, but you are looking up golf tournaments or golf events. So you can actually put in, move you guys over here, the search bar, and I just put golf tournaments and just to see what would pop up. And there's like a bunch that are kind of popping up. I mean, even, some of these newer ones that are January 14th, the 28th, we're seeing a lot of indoor kind of golf tournaments now, which is really, really fun. That's something we're really getting into now. So make sure you keep your eyes out for those kind of things. But Eventbrite is also great. I am going to have Audra kind of talk about, how you can take this information and go into Facebook. I take my pages out of Audra's book 100% because she has this down to an absolute science. So what I do is when I do find an event on Eventbrite or Golf Tourney or, some of these other ones that we're learning about, I will go to Facebook anyway, and I will type in the name of the tournament, and then it will pop up on Facebook. I can add it to my calendar on Facebook. I can still go comment on their page like Audra just showed us. I can still message them there because I do think it's a little bit more personal when it's coming from somebody over Messenger as opposed to just, a blind email coming through their inbox. So I'm going to kind of turn it back over to Audra. She can go through, the script and more of the Facebook stuff, but she really does have it down to a science.
Thank you guys. I'm excited to check out some of those websites as well. I literally only live and breathe Facebook. So I'm really excited for our teams to learn about those other pages. So thank you guys.
Yes, that's exciting stuff.
So, okay. So the fun stuff, calling and booking these tournaments, right? So I feel like, even for me, I go through different kind of spells, if you will, where I just don't feel like calling tournaments. I get anxiety still, after 12, 13 years of doing this for whatever reason. But what you guys will start to see is, as you're talking to the tournaments and they are just getting it, they're excited, and thankful that you called. I just booked a tournament. I had a tournament out here just south of Orlando yesterday. I talked to them last week, and so she was like, man, I wish that I would have talked to you months ago. I would love to do so much more with you. But for this year, we have a ball cannon. And so would you mind doing something on a par 3 because our hole-in-one fell through? And I was like, perfect. So a big thing for me is definitely when you're first starting, I would just have this phone script up. I used to have this up and I would just highlight certain questions that I thought were important. Now, I pretty much ask about the same questions every single time. But I think it's really important at first to talk to them. And whenever they pick up the phone, whoever it is, it might be, say it's like a chamber event. So you're talking to the receptionist. I just call and say, hey, I saw your golf tournament page online. I was hoping to talk to somebody about sponsoring a hole or a contest. Who's the best person to talk to about that? So they'll either get you in contact with the person that's only handling sponsorships, but honestly, most of the tournaments you guys are going to find and that are going to be really easy to get into at first are going to be, like your local high school, your local, church that's putting on an event, different sports teams, those sort of things. And so I feel like I really built my business off of those first. And then because I started getting so comfortable calling all of those, that it was so much easier to go, and call some of those bigger events like the Ducks tournament that we do every year. I had a completely, for those of you who watch hockey, or those of you who don't, the Ducks are a big team for us, along with the Kings in California. And I had to completely repitch them because they had a whole new, squad running their tournament this year. And we've done that tournament. I think Noelani was the one that booked it, 10 plus years ago. So it can be, I guess, like a little scary at first, but what's nice is whenever I get that person on the phone, I immediately just kind of start asking, what kind of sponsorships are you guys still looking for? What do you have available? Do you guys have different stuff going on the course already? What does that look like? And so a lot of times they'll just start talking. So they're excited to tell you, what they're fundraising for. They want to tell you all about, the sponsorships they already have. They're going to bring up, that there's a beverage cart sponsor or a lunch sponsor, that they have a $25,000 sponsorship. So I just listen and let them just tell me as much as they can. And then it depends on the person, but a lot of times once they're kind of done, they're like, okay, so who are you? I'm like, are you calling with like a company, or, what made you want to even call us to help? Or you'll get people who are much more direct and don't have a lot of time. And so they're like, well, who are you? What company are you with? What are you guys wanting to do? And so I always start by telling them that we own a couple different companies, because Elite does. And so Elite Fundraising Solutions is our main umbrella company, if you will. So we go help, charities all over the country. And what I always bring up is, more of like our background, that we do help, your local high school, your local church, with their golf fundraisers, but we also do some of the biggest events in the entire country. We've done Clint Eastwood's out in Tehama before. We have done the Dallas Cowboys golf tournament. We have done the American Cancer Society. We have a ton of different levels of events that we work with, and we actually put on one ourselves every year for the Hero program that we have. But we would love to just kind of come in and like fill any gaps that we can, depending on what you're still looking for. So I usually bring up, we can offer like a free hole-in-one for you guys if you don't have hole-in-ones in all your par threes. And I feel like that's an important comment to make, because if they have one, a lot of times they're like, oh, well, we have a hole-in-one. Well, do you have hole-in-ones in all your par threes? Because the big tournaments do, and so it kind of gets like their wheels turning. And so you guys can definitely go off of these questions that are on the screen, but I try to figure out, okay, do you have hole-in-ones in all your par threes? Because that's where our hero program is going to fit. Do you guys have a longest drive sponsorship? And I usually try to like marry it that way at first. If they do have a longest drive sponsor, what does that look like? And then I just kind of go into, alongside of Elite, we also own Crank Golf, which is known for the World Long Drive competitions. So sometimes we'll just set up, on one of the longest holes out there. We prefer a par 5, but a lot of times tournaments want us to do our cricket hole alongside of longest drive, because it just makes sense. And so depending on what you guys are wanting, if you did want to tie it in with longest drive, we'll have the players come up. They can all just kind of have fun with us. We bring out all of our newest drivers from Crank Golf that, hold all the world records for distance, ball speed, carry distance. But when it's tied in with longest drive, we're going to have them hit one ball with their driver and then one with ours, and then just take whichever one goes farther for the contest. But so that we don't slow down play, which we know is important, we'll have them pick up their golf balls and advance to our world record, which right now is at 483 yards. And so you pretty much get the same reaction, over the phone with the tournament director, unless they don't golf, that the players, all kind of give you guys out on the hole. They're like, what? That is a mile, they can't believe how long it is. And so I just bring up, yeah, the guys are really excited. They're up there chipping or sometimes even putting for an albatross. They're super excited to skip the fairway altogether. And then what I would want to figure out with you ahead of time is because we'll be out there, we'll just be asking the players for donations. Are we going to match back 100% of what we raise and give away custom built drivers and prizes from Crank? Or we can do 50% back in cash to help you guys with your fundraising. But either way is up to you guys. And you can always tell me closer to the event if you want to see how many, raffle prizes and stuff you get together first. So that's kind of how I bring up the Crank It hole. And then if they, have an open par 3, or say they don't have any hole-in-ones, whatever the case is, I bring up that with our own hero program, we were starting by partnering with golf courses. We would fundraise during normal play, but as we started to meet a lot of tournament directors out there, or people who were hosting their own events to help fundraise for, whatever it is, they started to ask us if we could do something like that for their event coming up. And so we still come out with the hero setup, and that way we can get our name out there and talk to people about what we do. But we're giving you guys in your tournament a hole-in-one for free. All the players can come through, they can all try for it. If they get a hole-in-one, then they split $3,500 with your tournament or your charity. And then the player that got it will keep the other half. And then if they donate any amount, and I do say any amount, then they're also added in for closest to the pin. And so what we do at the end of the day, we'll take 10% of what's raised. We're going to actually give the players cash, because a lot of times they're just going to come right back to you guys, when you call them up when they win, and they want to donate it back. So most people are too embarrassed, to take the cash and be like, okay, cool, thank you. They want to give it back to the charity, especially when it's a really good cause. And so that's a way for you guys to fundraise a little bit more. And then we also hand them a virtual gift bag, which will save them money on, golf and clubs, restaurants, all kinds of little goodies, but it's mainly, focused on golf. And at the end of the day, with everything we collect, we do the 10% for closest to the pin. So they usually end up winning anywhere from $50 to $200 for first and second place. But then we also hand you guys 25% of what's raised for, allowing us out there and to help you with your fundraising. And what I always say right after I bring up 25% is, but no big deal if people don't want to donate all day long and they just want to try for that hole-in-one. They can all do that for free. We're just happy to be there. So I basically give them the information, but then I skip over it to almost try to get them to think about how it's free. And how, I guess our players might not donate, so maybe they won't. And so this would be, cool to have them, because they're just happy to be out there to do the hole-in-one. So I do that on purpose. And then I would kind of go from there and just be like, do you guys do any sort of like player packages? Sometimes they're called like a mulligan package or something like that, that you sell at registration. And that is pretty simple. They either tell you yes or no. If they do tell you yes, I try to figure out what's in that and how expensive it is. A lot of times they'll sell it for like 20, 40 bucks, and there's pretty much nothing included except for like longest drive, closest to the pin. If they paid for the sponsor or the insurance for the hole-in-one, they might include mulligans, but most tournaments want to still sell those outside of a player package. And so, at the end of this conversation, when this is being brought up, honestly, I feel like their brains are on overload. And I usually tell them that, I'm like, okay, I don't want to completely overwhelm you, but we do have different player packages. Since your tournament's coming up in just a couple weeks, I can send that over to you in our deck so you can take a look at it. We can always come and sell it for you guys at registration, and we can talk about it later. And then for next year, just keep in mind, a lot of the tournaments that I work with, they always want to build it into their entry fee. So then that way they can highlight it on their flyers. I send them an email on how they can break down every piece of our tournament package and use it for sponsorships. And so between, adding more sponsorships and then highlighting those, exciting contests like the $100,000 shootout and the premium hole-in-ones, it usually helps you grow your event with more players and sponsors. So that's pretty much how my call goes the entire time. But does anybody have any questions at all before I kind of keep going? I know it's a lot of information, so no worries. Hopefully you guys are all taking notes.
Audra, this is really good. It's a great reminder for us old people in here, you know, of all the verbiage and things that you need to bring up. So thank you. This is good. This is great.
Thank you. And what I would like to remind everybody too, because I just experienced this. In December, there was a lot going on, you know, with being out in Florida, you know, going back for like the going back home for a week or so. Then there was holidays, all kinds of stuff. So I just didn't really call. But the very first, what was it, the 2nd of January, that very first Monday, I hit the phones super hard. And so even I was kind of tripping up, you know, some of my words. And so you're just kind of, it's not flowing right away. But I promise you, once you get a couple of those out of your system and somebody's excited and you end up getting it booked, then if you guys are like me, you're like, okay, cool, let's go get another one, you know? And especially when you squeeze them in last minute, like the tournament I had yesterday. And so as you just keep calling and you're like, well, let's see what happens. And then they end up working out, then you're going to build more confidence for sure, you know? And so it just kind of becomes a game after that. You're like, okay, well, let's see if I call one that's happening tomorrow. You know, I have all my stuff ready and it's within an hour of me. Why wouldn't I try to go? So I would definitely encourage you, just start picking up the phone, and I swear it gets easier and easier to bring up all the programs. One note that I would like to add would just be, you know, make sure you listen to them, and you're when you're asking them about, you know, what their tournament already looks like, if they have other fundraiser holes, that's really important. You know, do they already have a long drive hitter? Do they have somebody like Dixon out there? And so if they have other things going on, like my tournament did yesterday, then I make sure that I bring up, hey, our company would love to do, you know, multiple programs with you. I always say about 95% of my tournaments have 2 to 3 of our programs at their event, but we're really big on only having 2 to 3 on-course fundraisers because we want the players happy. We don't want them coming in and, you know, complaining about having to pull out their wallet all day long. And to be honest, all the holes usually end up fundraising a lot more when there's less of us. So, you know, because you have the ball cannon guy out there, then I feel like this one would be best. Or why don't I tell you both of these options and you just tell me which one, you know, you prefer. And so I feel like they appreciate that, and it gets them learning that you should not say yes to everybody who wants to call you and come out and make, you know, raise money at your event. You should get pickier. And a lot of these tournaments just don't know that at first. Make sure you guys know this very first question, I don't ask it right away. I feel like they kind of feel like, why are you wondering how many players I have right away? You know, instead of trying to like genuinely get to know what they're fundraising for, what they, you know, have going on, what they're still looking for. Just, I always try to just come across and like, hey, I'm just trying to help. And so I just kind of wanted to understand what your guys' goal is and what you have going on. And then at the end of the call, I'll be like, oh, by the way, you know, how many players do you guys have, you know, signed up, or how many are you expecting? And so that'll kind of start somewhat of a conversation. But how I kind of flip it from there is I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, I know you said you only have one more foursome that you're trying to sell before you're sold out. Would it be helpful if I posted your guys' flyers on my social media pages to try to, you know, get more signups for you? And so I like to bring it up that way, so then they don't feel like I'm just kind of like questioning them and seeing if their tournament's good enough, you know, if they have enough players or have enough going on. I always bring up like, hey, I'd love to post it. We have people ask us on our event page all the time what we have going on, you know, coming up and in different areas. So but that will tell you guys, especially with the super tickets and just having multiple programs at one tournament, if you even want to go into everything. So if it comes up, you know, with how many players early on, then that might kind of save you in your conversation, but I would not start with that question if that helps. I want to check the chat really fast, see if anybody has, oh, thank you, Leslie. If anybody has any questions or anything to add at all, I'd love to kind of open it up.
Yeah, Audra, I do have a question. So when you're pitching like the long drive contest, that's like a preset distance of 483 or 485.
Yeah.
Do we actually have a long drive person come out on occasion, or if they ask, for an actual long drive hitter, do we provide that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So our world long drive record right now is 483 yards. If the hole isn't quite long enough, I guess I'll start there. That's okay. I would just try to, figure out which hole is the longest on the course. But then if you're trying to work around other, companies that might be out there, I always focus more on just being on the opposite side of them, about 9 holes away. And then it's up to them. So I kind of let them tell me if they would rather have, somebody like me or another rep out there demoing the drivers and just having people try them and have fun with us on the hole, or if they'd prefer to have a long drive entertainer come out and they're doing awesome trick shots, out of people's mouths and between their legs. They're out driving guys with their putters. I tell them, one of my good friends always asks everybody if there's like a lefty in the group. And so if there is, he'll like take their driver, he flips it upside down and he's out driving these guys with, an upside down lefty driver. And so I'm like, they put on one heck of an event, and I am this honest. I tell them, I'm like, I don't know how they do it, but they end up fundraising a ton of money out there. But so that I would not bring it up unless, or I would even tell them like, hey, they just have certain like standards, if you will, that have to be met in order for them to be able to go to an event. And so a couple things would be, there has to be a minimum of 100 golfers. It has to be a minimum of $150 to play. And then you have to bring up that if there's any sort of travel that's involved, they're only going to take out a maximum of $500 for travel. But the thing is we don't want to send anybody out there, because that's what CGI does, Charity Golf International, and a couple other companies that send long drive guys, and they're not the best. So they would rather send, Troy out in Washington, or Leslie, I can't remember I think it's Josh, out in Colorado. They'd rather send like the best of the best out there, so that they're giving like that charity the best opportunity to fundraise well. But because they have less guys that do that, they usually have to fly. And so one thing I love about using Josh and Troy's company to send them out to events is that they only do a max of the $500 for travel. And I even tell the tournament, like, hey, if it's only $250, then awesome. We just take that off the top for travel, and then it's a 50-50 split from there. But if they're local, then awesome. You don't even have to worry about travel at all. They'll pay their gas or whatever it is. But CGI, they have it in like their fine print. And so if they are really wanting a long drive guy, I want them to know this, so they're not like, oh God, $500 in travel could come out, and I don't want them worried. What I tell them is, CGI will have travel costs be like a couple grand. It just depends on that event. But if they have to like overnight a guy and it costs them, $800 or whatever it might be, they don't even say anything to the charity. They pay for it up front, but they are taking it off the top. And so a lot of charities have been really upset with that, because they had no idea. And then now they're getting a check for a couple $100 or whatever it ends up being,
And I just want to add on to that really quick, Audra. So and Troy and Josh, who are some of the best hitters in the world, and they Troy is a veteran himself, but they give such high percentages. They give 50% of whatever they raise back to the charity at the end of the day. Every time I have Troy out at one of my big events, he's raising 9 to 10 grand every single time, and then that just is, another added bonus for you. Do you want to talk about that breakdown really quick, Audra?
Yeah. So say I have Troy come out to an event in Florida, and he raises, $9,000. But his travel was the full max of, $500, because it's a lot farther for him to get out here. He'll go from 9,000 to 8,500 for taking off like the travel. And then he's going to split the 8,500. Half of it will go to the charity, And then with the other half, there's a booking fee for whoever, booked him to go. And then the rest goes to the hitter and then also his company. So we've basically partnered with that company. They make very little. How do I put this? Our booking fees sound pretty low. I want to say it's like 5 to 10% for sending them, but they're making way more. So I know Leslie has had, some really great paydays off of sending them to events. I'm like, I've had a couple big ones too, where I'm like, hey, this is awesome. That I'm making an overrides, with sending this long drive guy. All I had to do is make a couple phone calls to get this tournament booked. And I ended up making the same amount of money as if I was out on the hole all day long, So I would definitely consider it, but you have to make sure it's going to be a good enough event for them to go to so they can fundraise that kind of money.
So we want it to be like a fulfilled event. I mean, and nothing like less than that. I would imagine like that'd probably be like the maximum benefit if it's a full field.
Yeah, or it could be, 72 to 100 golfers. They really, Troy always says, like, rule of thumb, 100 players, 150 minimum entry fee. But I still think that $150 entry fee is too low. So I would say they only have 100 golfers or 90 golfers, but it's $350 or $500 or $1,000 to play. They're going to kill that event, so they'll be able to go out there because those people have more money to play in those. And they'll do a really good job. I was listening to some of their stories on some events that they worked in Texas. And I want to say that between two hitters at one event, they ended up fundraising $80,000 between the two holes. So I can't imagine what the entry fee was, for people to just have that kind of money out on the golf course. I'm sure it was pretty high, and that's not normal for me to book those kind of events. But I think it's good for you to know so you can kind of share like different dollar amounts that they've done and different, charities that they've worked with.
And one thing too, if you guys are interested, if you are booking a long driver, you can always reach out to your RVP and they'll set you up with, they'll look at the schedule. I think we all have Troy's schedule that we kind of, peek at and just look and see, if he's even available. If not, Josh is available and we can absolutely get that set up for you. So just reach out to your RVP when you're ready to book.
Yeah. And then when I'm on the phone with the tournament, I always let them know that I would love to send them everything that we talked about in writing. And so what I'll send you guys too is just my template for that. And so I make sure for my own filing system in my inbox that I have like the name of the tournament, the date and the golf course in there. And then I underline like, hey, the two programs we talked about adding are on slide 3, the hero hole and the crank it hole. So it's just super simple for them to just pull up and read and look over to give you like that final yes if they haven't. But I always make sure that in my template that I tell them, hey, you should definitely take a peek, at our super ticket options. They're on slides 4 and 5. Which we could sell at registration for you. I'm assuming that a lot of times when I'm talking to tournaments, their tournament's coming up soon. It's not as often for me to talk to people where I have enough time to build it in. I've had so many in the last year because I've been working with a lot of those tournaments for a lot longer, and they've had me, go and sell it either for a year or a couple years, and then they finally get it that, wow, this is way better just building it in. So I would bring that up because it might help you, sell a super ticket last minute. And then I want to see if I had anything else. I think that was it.
One of the things I wanted to bring up on this too is when you are talking with a charity,
Mhm.
and I know you kind of said this briefly, but you want to make sure that you are at least one program like 9 holes away or somewhere around that 7, 8 holes away from each other, especially even on a par 3 and then your crank it hole. And I know Tracy and I showed up at a tournament and they had us next to each other, literally right next to each other. So thank goodness that we've been working with this tournament and this charity for, 4 years at this point,
Yeah.
and they were able to move us, at least 7, 8 holes apart. And we've gotten there early enough to be able to do that with them. And so it just, keep all of those things in mind, and because things change, even though we booked it, and you're working with the charity, sometimes the golf course changes some things. And so, just kind of go with the flow and problem solve and those types of things, but keep that, make sure that you know where you are on the course and how far, your holes that you're going to be doing that day are the right amount of space from each other, because that makes a huge difference on, collecting and being able to raise on the course.
On that note too, when you guys start to do more super tickets, I'm probably going to be sending out quite a few things, and I'll probably do them in separate emails to make it easier for everybody to see the template and like what I attach. But when I book a super ticket, for example, I coordinate with the tournament first and see if there's holes I need to work around with either their sponsors or like where the course might have already told them they want, like closest to the pin or longest drive. Those are the 2 most common that we cover for prizes. And then if they don't know any of that, then I go and I coordinate with the course. And so I'm asking them like, hey, what's your best long drive hole? Because a lot of times the long drive hole might be on a par 4. It's not always on a par 5. And so when you get in there, then you have to be organized to set up like the $100,000 shootout, what hole you're doing the hole in one, the different contests they have going, plus your fundraiser holes. So you want to, like Noelani was just saying, evenly spread out everything. So it's not all back to back. Well, thank you for adding that. Does anybody else have any questions or want me to go over anything else on, talking to the tournaments at all? I'm like, okay, well, we did it in an hour, even with having my computer shut off. So thank you guys for all hopping on, and for everybody or a couple of you giving, your 2 cents on everything too. So I'm super appreciative that so many of you were able to get on the call today. And then we'll send this recording out for everybody's teams so that anybody that couldn't be on it can listen as well. But thank you guys.
Thank you.
Audra.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
All
all
right.
very
Look,
much.
book all those.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
I think.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.